Hey there, hello everyone. So, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Simplified Nutrition Guidelines for Africans. And it's been really long time. I'm sorry for the silence. A lot was happening, a lot of transition had taken place from class to work, and that came with new responsibilities, new assignments, and so I had to adjust. That's why I'm sure you've missed my content for so long, but nevertheless we thank God for this opportunity. So today I just want to bring a simple piece of advice. I will call it an eye opener, and I want us to look into drought tolerant crops as an avenue for achieving food security as well as nutrition security. I know by now, if you've been following my content, you know there is a difference between food security and nutrition security. I will not dig deep into that, but I just want you to know that you can be satisfied, you have eaten, you feel full. That means that you are food secure. But then the quality of what you've eaten, if it's missing nutrients in a balanced proportion, then you could be nutritionally insecure. If you want to understand more of that, that one can be a discussion for another time. But I want to look at 3 cereals and 3 legumes which are drought tolerant crops, and this is sorghum, finger millet, and pearl millet for the cereals. And then for the legumes, I will think about groundnuts, green gram, and pigeon pea. You see, in the face of increased human population, scarcity of resources, and scarcity of food, we need to think outside the box and find other alternative sources of food. And these 6 that I have just mentioned are I would say they are very nutritious, and their utilization is less, or their utilization at the moment is not optimal. There are some people who still think, oh, sorghum is for the poor, or finger millet is a poor man's food, or green gram is not for my class. But today I want to tell you from the food and nutrition perspective that the 3 cereals, sorghum, finger millet, and pearl millet, are rich in starch, and they're also rich in micronutrients. Like the amount of iron you would get in finger millet is way much higher than what you would get in maize or in rice or in wheat. So if we are thinking of fighting anemia among children under the age of 5, among pregnant women, among vulnerable populations, HIV AIDS patients, and even just the general population, we want to have adequate amount of micronutrients, the likes of iron, the likes of zinc, the likes of calcium. Then let us think of these foods that we have left underutilized. Then when we talk of the legumes, for instance, groundnut is rich in oil, unsaturated oil. That means that oil is safe for your health. It is free from cholesterol, so it's not associated with any diseases like hypertension, hyperlipidemia, thrombosis, and the likes, which usually come due to the intake of saturated fats. And I've just given you an example of cholesterol. Look at protein. These 3 legumes, groundnuts, green gram, and pigeon peas, are cheap sources of protein. That means that even the resource-constrained households, typical of the rural households in Kenya and Africa at large, they can be able to utilize these legumes and get adequate protein. And in that case, we will be fighting protein deficiency among our populations. And also, when we talk of low glycemic index foods that have a low glycemic index, that is the foods in which the sugar is extracted at a lower rate or quite slowly, then think of sorghum, think of finger millet, think of pearl millet. These foods have a low glycemic index, meaning they are suitable in the control and management of diabetes, a non-communicable disease that is really eating into our population today. So we're thinking of managing diabetes, we're thinking of preventing diabetes, then let's think of foods that have low glycemic index. And the 3 cereals I've just talked about are a good example to go by. Then now think of fiber. Many people today are struggling either with constipation or diarrhea. Those are issues of the digestive system, mobility of the digestive system contents. And if you want to have a good bowel movement, you're not struggling with the constipation, you're not struggling with diarrhea, then let's think of these three cereals and these three legumes. The legumes are groundnuts, green gram, and pigeon peas. The cereals are finger millet, pearl millet, and sorghum. They have both the soluble and insoluble fiber. Therefore, they enable optimal bowel movement for the health of your gut. Okay. Let's think of nutrients like potassium, for example, which is a very important micronutrient in the regulation of blood pressure. You want to have a healthy blood pressure, well-regulated blood pressure, then potassium, phosphorus, calcium. Think of those minerals. They are found in these 6 foods that I am talking about. We also need to diversify our diet. Many people are taking tea, and we know that tea has nicotine, a substance or a compound that is associated with problems of the lungs and many other forms of inflammations. Now, if we want to find an alternative source, did you know we can have sorghum beverage and be able to use it in the place of tea? And this sorghum beverage is free from nicotine. Therefore, it is safe for our health. There are so many other benefits that I could talk about. Think of zinc. Zinc is very good for your immune system. Zinc is very good for the integrity of the epithelial lining. Zinc is very good for formation of of collagen, of hair follicles, and many other sources. Even in the reproductive system, zinc is still an important micronutrient, and this zinc is found in finger millet, it's found in groundnuts, and all those 6 foods that I have mentioned. Let's think of diversifying our diets. Let's not abandon these crops in the name of they are for the poor, in the name of they are for old people, in the name of their difficulty to prepare. No, these foods can prepare very sumptuous dishes, very, very artistic cuisine if we give them a chance. And then apart from the nutrition and food security part of it, there is also the good market value that these foods fetch on the market. So the surplus that we get from our produce can be sold, and we can get income from it and be able to use it for both food and non-food items that are required by the household. So I am here to tell you that let us diversify our diets. Let us think outside the box. Let us avoid the notion that maize is the only staple. We Kenyans, we are always on maize for ugali, maize for porridge, maize for githeri. Let us think of, for instance, sorghum pilau, sorghum pops. Let us think of groundnut paste. Let us think of finger millet muffins, finger millet lemon cake. Let us think of green gram, whole meal. Let us just open our minds and be receptive to new diets, be receptive to this food, because I've said they're very nutritious, they are affordable, they are relatively cheap compared to, for example, animal sources. How much would you buy a kilo of beef, and how much would you buy a kilo of green gram? How much would you buy, for example, one big size fish, and how much would you buy the same size or the same quantity for maybe pigeon or for green gram? And yet all of them are going to supply you with protein. All of them are going to supply you with unsaturated fats, for example. All of them are going to supply you with potassium, with iron, with zinc. So it means that in the midst of resource scarcity of resources, inadequate amount of money, we can still achieve better nutrition if we think outside the box and utilize these drought tolerant crops. So I want to encourage farmers, I want to encourage households, I want to encourage opinion leaders, families. Let us cultivate drought tolerant crops. Let us spare some space in our farms for sorghum, for finger millet, for pearl millet. Let's spare space for groundnuts, for green grams, for pigeon peas, and let us utilize this their produce, because it is going to be safe and healthy for our body, and we are also going to get income out of it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Remember to subscribe to my channel, Simplified Nutrition Guidelines for Africans. Till next time, bye bye.